All right, welcome everybody to our Monday meetup. It is December, and we know traditionally numbers kind of start to drop with the busyness of the holiday season. So, thanks to those of you who made time to be here. It just happened to be the week that I picked to lead Monday meetup. So, we're still pretty early in the month, but I love to dig into evaluating the previous year and setting goals for the next year well before January. So it's really perfect timing. Of course, the month is not over. We have free frankincense with the 200 PV. We have such great things to promote this month. We're doing the big giveaway spree in Drop by Drop. So make sure you are inviting people over there. It's a good excuse to invite people. The posts are all just engagement related. So nobody has to sign up for anything or whatever to enter to win. They just have to join and then comment. So today's post was just share something that brings you peace. And we have a lot of new members over in Drop by Drop. So I did add a disclaimer, make sure it's either doTERRA products or oils or some kind of habit or practice, or maybe a general thing like, peppermint tea or something, but not any brand names because that's in our group guidelines. We want to make sure people don't start naming pharmaceuticals or something for what brings them peace. So yeah, we're giving away a peace package today, and every day I'll have a different theme. So it's also a good way to kind of teach customers about maybe some oils or products they didn't know about yet. And you can also add non-customers there, people who are interested. We try not to add a lot of sideline people. We try not to have a lot of people who are on other teams, either as customers or builders, but we can't really control that totally. So it's not like we can screen every single person to know that. But just think of inviting your customers, your team members, and also anybody who might be interested in oils, maybe someone you've sampled. If they're on Facebook, it's a great way to introduce them. So there's a lot of good stuff going on this month. We have a lot of December left, so I don't want to overlook or negate that in any way. But I do want to encourage, and we've had a lot of talks about planning goals and working on your mindset, visualizing goals, making sure your belief is in a good place. So you can review past Monday meetups and hear a lot about those kinds of things. I wanted this to be very practical and really to get your juices flowing and thinking about and evaluating your own past year. Well, this is something you could do every month, and I'm going to give you some tools so that you could do that. There are so many all over the internet now, so many different worksheets and books and workbooks and things like that that you could download or you can buy books on this. But I'm hoping to get some discussion here because I really want to start off with evaluating what we have done well this year. And then we'll work in our way into more about goals for next year and how we can improve things that we can put into place, either habits or mindsets that we can put into place to achieve goals in the coming new year. But I really want to ask you guys to think about as you look back through 2024, are there some things you did consistently? Are there some habits that you really tapped into? Things that maybe you tackled a project, maybe you joined a networking group or set a goal to enroll a certain number of people or wanted to hit a rank, or maybe it's something to do with social media because that's really intimidating for a lot of people trying to develop the habit of showing up on social media consistently in a way that people will actually respond to. And so I know we've talked a lot about that this year, but I was just kind of looking through the list of past Monday meetups this year and some of even the doTERRA Empowered Success themes that they do on Monday nights. And it just kind of got me thinking about what have we put in place that has worked well. I would love for you to share either in the chat or if you want to unmute, just maybe a goal that you set. And I'm not saying I know there's probably goals we've all set that we didn't quite reach, but maybe one that you got closer to or a way that you grew. Really, that's my favorite thing to hear about is how did you grow? How did deciding to read that book or show up at those networking meetings or show up on Monday meetup even, is there something that challenged you, helped you to grow an idea? Maybe you implemented sourdough classes, something real practical that, Stephanie taught, or you got an idea from someone else here on Monday Meetup that you put into practice. and it helped you to grow in some way. And it may not always look like growth in numbers, but the growth in ourselves is where it starts before we see the growth in numbers, right? So we have to grow in our own belief and our own mindset and start just consistently putting practices into place. So I would love to hear about that. So just think about that for a few minutes and prepare to unmute or start typing in the chat while you're thinking about your year. And if you have a notebook or a piece of paper, a pad, something you can write on, it would be great for you to actually write down some things you did well. Because sometimes when we go into goal setting or even mindset workshops, it can start to feel really slanted toward all the things we didn't do, all the things we did poorly, all the goals we didn't reach, when we start evaluating. And I really want you to start off with a positive mindset of thinking about something you did well, something you implemented that you're proud of, something, if you're having a one-on-one with your mentor in doTERRA, what's a habit you could say, I did this and I achieved this, or I overcame this fear, and I'm pretty proud of myself about that, and I want to do more of that. And then we can talk about where are some areas where you could use some improvement. So does anyone have anything you want to share from 2024 that you did well or that went well for you?
I'll say something. This is AJ. How are you?
How are you?
Fine. I'm running as usual. I just ran and skidded into my seat and
I did
zoomed.
too. Same here.
Well, I wanted to say, I actually made it very intentional to carry samples on me. I used to only carry Deep Blue and maybe a couple of oils, but I'm telling you, especially since Foundational Wellness came out, I added that to my list. So I carry at least one pack, 1 to 2 pack in a Ziploc. I put these things in a Ziploc so I can just take out the Ziploc and go, listen, blah, blah, blah. Let me explain this to you. And I'd be happy. And then I make a scheduled appointment off of that so I can explain it to them, you know? Because sometimes when people are standing in front of you, they really are not listening. They want to listen, but they don't have time. So I said, well, hey, would you be available at this time? And then we get together and we call or meet or whatever. That's one of the things, and that has gotten me a few extra enrollments, I have to
That is
say.
so smart. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. We were
Yeah.
actually Tanya and I were talking about, and maybe we'll develop this idea. We were talking about, wouldn't it be a great campaign? Because sometimes samples are hard to mail and postage has gone up a lot. And even the little vials, you have to put them in a bubble
Yeah.
wrap or something to mail them, and that just makes everything more expensive. But those VMG sachets, you could pop that in an envelope with a little brochure or a trifold or something
Mm-hmm.
explaining about it and set up, like you said, an appointment. And that could be such an inexpensive thing to mail. And it would be neat to have a
Yeah.
challenge, to buy a box of them and give them away to, 30 different people, even if you had to mail them. But carrying them around and sampling people in person is super smart. So thanks for sharing that.
Can
That's
I
great.
add one little thing? I
Mhm.
have to tell you, my daughter, sometimes people will try it or they won't try it. But I tell you what I did. I committed myself, and this could get a little expensive, but it always has worked so far. For a relative, I gave her literally 5 days of the VMG and collagen, and I added a recharge in with it. I did.
Mhm.
But they're a relative, and that
Yeah,
relative is now buying it monthly, at least
that's
whenever they
amazing.
run out. Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
really
Both
priceless.
of
If
them.
it
Yeah.
takes five, if you need to, a lot of people just want to taste it. And like I tried the sample at convention and I was sold because I didn't expect it to be that smooth. I thought it'd be
Right.
gritty. I thought it'd taste bad.
Yeah.
It was really good.
It's
So
a
that's all I
win-win.
needed to know. I knew there
And
was
it's
good
not a
ingredients.
pill. It's not
Right.
a pill. Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
And there's so many people asking for that, right? So that's a great idea. Yeah, if you can afford to, give, or if it's someone who would be worth it to you, that's amazing to have that on LRP every month from sampling. So carrying samples with you and being really intentional about what you have to offer with it. But making an appointment is super smart because if you don't get their contact information or even try to set an appointment right there, if you can, you might as well like drive down the street and throw them out the window and hope that you get something from it, right? So you've really got to be intentional about, like you said, they're not listening or they're not going to retain what you've said right then. You got to get their permission, their buy-in. Let me send you more information. Let's talk. Let's have a meeting. So love that idea. Thanks for sharing, AJ. Anybody else, something you implemented or did well?
It's small,
Okay.
but I showed up to the Monday meetups. Well, it's Tuesday for me all year.
You did.
And I'm
Wow.
I'm pretty sure I'm trying to think back. I don't think I missed one.
I don't
And
think you have. I've missed more than you have. I know that. So,
and part of that is going slow back into making right decisions for my business. And one of those is let's start with this. Show up every. I almost couldn't come today, and then probably it was a little God here, but my appointment that wanted to go at 10 is at 11 because it's 10:10 in the morning
Mhm.
here, and so here I am, and I'm like I've been here almost actually everything this year, and so now I need to start doing some of the things that we learned. When you're going to get to that, I say, but that's my success.
Yeah. Awesome.
So yeah,
Yeah.
showing up for this, even though I have my PhD and I have my teaching and my being a professor, I came here every week.
Wow.
So yeah, I didn't realize it until you said, what do you have?" I'm
That's
like,
so
I don't,
great.
oh, that's what I have.
That is so great. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff shared here every week. So many great ideas and inspiration. So we try to mix it up too, where there's practical ideas, but also always going back to mindset and belief and building each other up, encouraging each other. So that is awesome. I love that. That's a good goal to set too. And also the empowered success ones are really good that doTERRA has for us. So I encourage people, that's not just a Monday off. That first Monday, I've learned some great things. Even just this last one, it was fun to hear Dr. Hill just reminiscing about getting doTERRA started and then how much he loves frankincense and him and Justin, back in the early days up till now. So I enjoy listening to those stories and those leaders and things that they have on those too. So good job. Thank you for being so faithful to show up for Monday meetups. I know for me personally, I've done some sourdough classes. I've been doing sourdough for a long time, and I had that idea, but I didn't really implement it in the most effective way until we heard more from Stephanie and got those tools from her. And so it was something I was kind of keeping separate from doTERRA and just hoping maybe by osmosis, people being in my house, there's diffusers going, there's oils, they know what I do. But I love the ideas that Stephanie, which she got from someone else, of course, but that's what I love about her community. So many things are shared. And so that's been more effective since I've been intentional, just like AJ said, being intentional with the things that you're doing and then just putting it out there in different places on Facebook, just what I do, who I am, what I offer. And it has ended up resulting in some purchases and enrollments and opportunities, some vendor markets, some people at church who now know what I do because the church started having markets once a month, and so I just have shown up at those and have gone in with, I'm not gonna even have a goal to necessarily get enrollments, but I just want people to know who I am and what I do and have conversations. And it has resulted in some follow-up enrollments. So just again, showing up at those kind of things and being picky about which ones, because I used to sign up for a lot of markets and then I'd be frazzled and I wouldn't really do any of them as well as I could have. And then I wouldn't have take the time to follow up with the people who like entered the prize drawing. So I'm being more selective and doing markets that are in places that I already go, instead of driving an hour away because, oh, it's a really big market where there's a lot of people. I'm doing little markets in my hometown or at my church where there's people I'll run into that I can continue to build relationship with that I'll see about, my regular life. So those are some things I've felt have gone well. Anybody else?
Hey, Crystal, I'll share. Um, I'm Patricia. I'm one of Ramana's downline. And I think for me, it's been just kind of a mindset shift because I started off with, into doTERRA thinking, of course, it's business, strictly business, and I've got to do these certain things. And if I wasn't doing those specific things, then I wasn't going to be successful. And taking classes and doing these money meetups, and of course having our meetings with our small group, it really has helped me to think outside the box think of other ways to reach out to people. And one of the huge ways is, of course, social media, and learning how to do that, learning how to create ads, learning how to just reach out to people that way on different platforms. And then not thinking, I mean, it is a business, but not thinking of it solely as a business, but as helping people
Yeah.
and reaching people, and being genuine about how they can change their life. Not of course, if they do all this, it does benefit them, it benefits me, but it really is to help them see that there is a better way than Western medicine, than popping a pill, and these natural ways that our body recognizes these things and can help them without side effects and without issues, and with their children. And there's so many things that these oils do that people don't realize, and we're helping them see that. And so it really has helped me this year to shift my mind and get it out of just this narrow thinking of, I have to have classes and I have to preach to them and I have to give them these certain pamphlets and books and all of that. So I really have been appreciative of all the classes and everything we've had to get that mind shift.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. Except we were talking about that recently too, Tanya and I, that, I signed up 12 years ago. My anniversary is coming up on December 17th.
Wow.
And it was very different back. We did teach everybody kind of do the same thing, do the same kind of class. Here's the template, here's the notes. And this will, get people just, here's how to invite. That's the kind of piece that's different for everybody. Who are you going to invite? Where are you going to invite? But with really with 2020, but even before then, a little bit, things were shifting because of social media being so prevalent, social selling being such a big thing. It's not that nobody will come to classes, but certain people really just won't, because there's too many other ways to learn that they prefer. And so it's getting to know how that person will connect best with you. And that could be in numerous different ways, but it may not be ever getting them to a class. And it might not be an online class either. It might be a one-on-one, might be sampling, And so the thing I love about that, the beauty of it is, there are just endless ways to share. If you don't like teaching classes, guess what? You could be more successful than all of us not teaching classes. There's so many other things you could do. And so that's something that I think is more appealing to different types of builders, is that, okay, here's the products, here's kind of the basics of what we do, the pipes, right? But you put your own flair to it. How do you love to share? Where do you like to show up? What are the types of activities you like to already do? How do you reach people best? That's how you're going to share at OTerra. It's not necessarily one way, which I love that Tanya implemented. That's something else that has gone well. I love that she implemented the wellness workshops that we can always plug into and invite people to. But we can also use those materials to teach ourselves the information and to go out and share it one-on-one. So we may not get that person ever to show up on a Zoom class, but we have those tools. We have the PowerPoints. We could present it in person, or we could just take those notes and read through them again and again until we really solidify some of that information so that we feel confident to go share. Because we've got the script, we've got the PowerPoint, we've got invitations, whatever is going to serve you in that. I love that she put that together for us. So that's gone really well this year, because I've heard of a lot of people implementing it in different ways like that. Because that's how building is now, and we have to accept that. So, and the sooner we embrace that, actually, I think it's very exciting that there's so many different ways to share, and that we see team members doing that, sharing all these different ideas. Because I've already learned some stuff tonight that I can do differently and better going into 2025. So, love that you shared that. Thank you, Patricia. And the mindset piece. You'll never overcome your fears and obstacles if you aren't working on that mindset part. And so that's really at the core of it.
Can I say
Anybody
something,
else?
Crystal,
Yes.
just really quick about Patricia? You're absolutely right. I was going back and forth a little bit. I noticed when I thought about it as selling a product, I'd get anxiety. I would get because I don't like selling. I always told my mother this. Oh, you're such a and so, no, Ma, I don't sell. I don't do that. That's not what I do. But you know what? I'm the first one to share. And the sharing is when you get into your mindset, like Stephanie says, you owe it to people to help them to get to better health. When I think about it like that, it is so easy. There's no anxiety. There's only love. It's like from the heart. You know what I mean? It's like a connection from the heart that says, hey, you know what? I can help you. if you let me try, I can try to help you to better health. So,
Mhm. Yeah, and people want that. They can recognize someone who's just trying to sell, right? And
yeah.
not really caring about their individual needs and who they are as a person. So that's what our team really is comprised of. And yeah, and that is real sales. It's connecting people with what they need that's going to improve their lives and teaching them how to use it most effectively. It's not truly just making fast cash off somebody by convincing them to buy something. That's not what sales should be. So, all right, before we move on to setting some goals for the new year, anybody else have anything you want to share quickly about something that went well? I'm going to encourage you all to pick 3 things to write down. Just look back through this year and write down 3 things that went well, things you did well, something you learned, something you did, something along those lines, because you want to continue doing more of what's working, right? And you want to carry that into the new year. So if you're showing up on Monday meetups, you're carrying around samples, you want to keep doing that. You want to do more of what's going well for you. And then we want to implement some new things to reach goals too. So to introduce the goal setting portion here, I'm going to share some thoughts from some smart people. I'm going to read you a little poem first, though. So this is called Meeting Deadlines. And Brian Bilston, he's really funny. I think he's very witty and he writes poetry and different things that a lot of times making fun of grammar and different idioms and things. But this one's called Meeting Deadlines. It says, I always meet my deadlines. I don't even have to try. They sneak up on me from nowhere, tap my shoulder and say hi. It's you, I cry. So how are you? I didn't think you'd come so soon. Can't stop now, but why don't we meet, say, next Tuesday afternoon? Or better still, 2 weeks from now? My deadline shrugs and sighs. A fortnight on, we meet again, much to my surprise. So I just thought that was cute that, some of us who are procrastinators sometimes fall into this trap of I'm going to set a goal and I'm going to have a deadline and it's going to be a smart goal and it's going to be measurable and achievable and it's going to be time bound. And then that time comes and we went, oh, whoops, I forgot that was on my calendar and I did nothing to work toward achieving that. So let's just push that out a couple weeks. So we want to avoid that kind of mindset. Also, James Clear, Atomic Habits, great book if you haven't read it yet. Going forward into the new year, I would encourage you to have a list of books that you want to read. And in fact, you should share in the comments. I know we've shared before, but if you have a favorite that you would recommend to people to read, I know Reed has a whole list. Will you share those? Because that's something I want to encourage you to do. What's something you can do for personal development, whether it's a podcast, maybe it's not a book, or an audiobook or something else that can really help you. But Atomic Habits is a great one. And I get James Clear's emails that he shares. And he had a couple of quotes that I thought were really good. He said, when dreaming, imagine success. When preparing, imagine failure. When acting, imagine success. So when you're dreaming and when you're acting, you need to picture yourself succeeding. But when you're preparing, that's the time when it's okay to imagine what might go wrong so that you can prepare for that potentially. Of course, we can't prepare for everything that could go wrong, but you can imagine failure when you're preparing so that you can try to avoid it. But when you're dreaming, when you're acting, you need to picture yourself succeeding if you're going to have a hope of actually succeeding. So I'm looking at some comments. Put that poem on HHC. I'm not sure where that is. Oh, and she also said Silver Club again and 8 weeks to Elite, although I'm Premier. That's great, AJ. Awesome. Yes, Silver Club is a wonderful thing to implement. You are going to definitely want to do that. Look into the qualifications for that. 8 weeks to Elite is always good to repeat. So those are awesome things moving forward. So James Clear also said, if you don't actively choose a better way, then society, culture, and the general inertia of life will push you into a worse way. The default is distraction, not improvement. And so that's true for all of us, whether it's our business or whether it's our health. The default is distraction, not naturally going toward improvement. And if you don't choose a better way, whether that is implementing healthy habits, so that's something else that you need to look at for yourself. I like to divide out the goals into categories, which we'll kind of go into, but your own health and wellness. needs to be a priority because you're a walking billboard for the products that you're representing,
Yeah.
and you need to be able to tell people what they're doing for you. But you're not going to do that if you're so busy that you're not getting enough sleep, you're not prioritizing taking those supplements, you're running yourself ragged. And so you have to choose a better way because otherwise, like James Clear said, then society, culture, and the general inertia of life will push you into a worse way. And that's what's happened with most of our culture here in America, that people have adopted so many bad habits with food and movement and things because it's just the general inertia and distraction of life. And so we're here to encourage there's a better way for them, right? But we need to be living it out for ourselves too. And it's true for our business also. Um, I love this one he shared from someone else. So he always shares a few of his own quotes, and then he shares a couple of other things that have inspired him in his weekly emails. This was a journalist, Hunter Thompson. He said, "It's not necessary to accept the choices handed down to you by life as you know it. There is more to it than that. No one has to do something he doesn't want to do for the rest of his life. But then again, if that's what you wind up doing, by all means, convince yourself that you had to do it. You'll have lots of company." So the idea there is where the business comes in. It's easy for people to just get stuck in a rut and say, well, I have to do this for the rest of my life. This is just what I have to do. And they'll convince themselves that they had to do it, that there wasn't another way. They'll say no to our opportunity. And they have lots of company in that, right? Where a lot of people feel that there's no way out. I just have to work at this job for 40 years and then be too tired and old to enjoy retirement and then die, and people have accepted that culturally. And we have a better way with the business too. And so, who can we inspire that they don't have to do that for the rest of their lives? They have to be willing to open that door and to be able to see that there is a different way. But for us, we're already choosing this business. So, what have we kind of settled into complacency with instead of working toward our goals? Because complacency is really the path of least resistance, the apathetic path of not doing anything, just accepting where we are and that we'll never have more. And just, there is a point where we need to be content with what we have, but that doesn't mean we can't dream and plan and act toward something better. And we have the opportunity to do it. And the last one, Roman scholar and philosopher Marcus Cicero on the value of making numerous attempts. For who is there who, shooting all day, will not sometimes hit the mark? And I love that idea because that's about habits, right? So someone standing there shooting all day might eventually at least hit that mark, right? But if we're not out there shooting all day, if we're not handing out those samples, if we're not planning those activities in classes, we won't hit that mark. And we'll convince ourselves that it just wasn't meant to be for us. It just wasn't going to work out for us because it's easier to say that than to actually do the things it takes to move forward. So there's lots of goal planning worksheets and things out there. I am going to share some with you. At the end of this, I'll share the link where I have them, and I'll put it in my builder group, and I'll make sure Stephanie and Tanya have
Thank you.
it into their builder groups too, so everyone can have access to these. There's one that's a bundle, and I want to look through that. And then there's one that's just a simple worksheet. So as far as what might be the best fit for you, you'll have to see and, use what's going to serve you best. So, oh, the poem, I will share that with you. It's actually in this folder too that I'm going to share. Um, okay, goals. I want to read this first. Heather says, goals I've achieved in 2024. First in-person convention. Woo woo. Awesome decision. Very good. Always good to plan. So that's something I will encourage you is to look at your 2025 calendar, get one if you don't have one yet, and block out the important dates, the important events that doTERRA has already announced, leadership and convention. We don't have it yet, but Tanya is actually at the summit today, the Blue and Presidential Summit. So she'll be leaving and she'll have a plan for, usually they tell her in advance when BOGOs are going to be roughly, not exact dates or anything, but kind of we know based on past years, we can kind of plan on a lot of times there's 200 PV specials the same months, there's BOGOs the same months. So just kind of having that strategically on your calendar to know this is probably what's going to happen. But even just the events, the things that are coming up. And then she said 100 PV new enrollments, which qualified her for leadership and Silver Club. Those are so awesome. Thank you for sharing This is how you do it. You break down your goals into smaller pieces, and then you achieve those things along the way. And so I'm going to share, if I can find, let's see what's happening here. Um, well, first let me give you, yeah, it's not going to let me share this. Sorry. All right, here we go. So I said I got a new computer and I should have, this was something that's always been so easy on Zoom is to just share my screen. But I think it's a setting in Zoom. So I'll just tell you about some of these first and then eventually I'll get this worked up. So one of the things that a lot of people talk about is the SMART goals. And that's something you'll see in here. There's some controversy about whether that's really the best for everybody's personalities or learning styles. And so I'm going to go over a few different ways of thinking about goals so that you, if that doesn't work for you, then that's okay too. You can use one of the others. I have a very simple sheet that might be better for some people. And I have one that will also get really deep. If you're a journaler, if you love to write, if you love to plan out every little detail, the thing that happens with me is I love to fill out worksheets and I can have a whole booklet about goals for next year and I'll fill out the whole thing. Every line will be filled in. Will I actually do those things? That's the thing that it holds me up. It's that deadline thing, right? So, all right. Well, I might not be able to, I don't know. Let me just see what happens if I Oh, add Zoom. Okay, there we go. Now it will work. Okay, good. Just had to click the right button to do this for the first time. Be patient here for a second. All right, there. Oh, well, maybe. It's saying I need to quit Zoom and restart. All right, well, I'm just going to share the link with you and you can pull it open and I'll describe it as we're going along because that will be easier. So the first one in the folder is going to be a booklet about um, goals, and it will have the SMART goals in it. But then there's also the individual sheet, and then that poem is in there too. So sorry, I seem so disorganized. I had this all open and ready to go, and now it's making me sign back in again. And I'm going to pull it open and just start going through it. All right, so it's called the Goal Planner Bundle. And it's going to have monthly reflections. So this kind of thing that we just did with having a discussion about what went well, you're going to want to try to do that on a monthly basis if you can. And that you're welcome to print these out and put it somewhere or just use your planner. Some planners already have that kind of thing built into. I know a lot of people for a while really loved using the Dough planner. And that was one that had specific doTERRA goals, but again, it was kind of catered toward just always having classes. And so if that's not going to work well for you, um, then you can, go with a different type of planner. But how was your month? And you could start using this even for December or for November, because we're at the beginning of December here. Some of the highlights of the month. And this is really good to look back on. What were some of your challenges? So think about that even with 2024. Some of your highlights, some of your challenges. And there's 5 lines. So 5 things, up to 5 things that were highlights or challenges, and then 5 things that you're grateful for. So what went well, and then improvements. What do I want to do more of, and what do I want to do less of? And that's going to help you to really solidify the things that are working well, because there's nothing worse really than, oh, sorry, I'm getting an echo.
Sorry.
I'm going to mute that just because I don't know why it was giving feedback. Then continuing to do something over and over that's not working, right? So we want to make sure we're not falling into that rut and that we are doing the things that will implement well moving forward. And sometimes things that worked really well last year may not next year. So again, that's something you want to do more of the things that you see working, like handing out samples and doing one-on-ones. Do less of maybe just putting out blanket. I'm just giving examples. If it works for you, great. But maybe putting out blanket invitations to the wellness workshops and nobody's showing up week after week. You're not having anybody engage and show up. And so that's not going to be the most effective thing for you to continue doing. And yet you could be spinning your wheels, spending a lot of time doing that. So I want you to, think about that and avoid doing the things that maybe aren't serving you. Maybe you're wasting your time, so that you're not getting into that rut and doing things that really aren't effective. And then it has next month I'm going to do and fill in the blank. And then kind of just rating. How is this month overall? So that's up to you. Is it a scale of 1 to 10? Is it an A to F scale? But thinking about that, then setting SMART goals. So this is where I'm going to introduce kind of a different concept too. SMART is, and you probably all heard this, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. And then you have that written out. If that doesn't work for you, I'm going to read you a little bit about a different type of goal setting that may or may not work well for you. But it's called setting a PACT goal instead of a SMART goal. And so that's purposeful, actionable, continuous, and trackable. And the thing that is smart about that, so you can do the SMART goals, and if it's working for you, that's great. But the PACT goals, that what's different about them, it's going to be really meaningful to your long-term purpose. So the P, if you want to write this down, and I don't have a link or a worksheet for this, so this is just if it speaks to you, your long-term purpose in life. So it's not just relevant now. It's going to be harder to stick to something if you don't actually care about it long-term, right? So it needs to be aligned with your passions, your objectives in life. You'll feel much more motivated by that. And in order to achieve that meaningful long-term goal, you're going to have to break it down into tasks. So then actionable, a good goal is based on outputs that you can control. Your goal should be actionable and controllable. So it's about shifting your mindset from distant outcomes in the long future to kind of the present outputs that you can control, the things that are within your reach now. So what are those actionable steps? So that you don't overplan for tomorrow, you're going to take some action today. Continuous, it's important that the actions you take toward your goal are simple and repeatable. So many goals are just not achieved because of what's called choice paralysis. And that's when there's so many options, you end up spending more time doing research than actually doing stuff that will make you progress toward your goal. Raise your hand if you've ever been guilty of that. So sometimes you just, and I love research, so that really is attractive to me. Let me research this to death rather than actually go out and do the stuff that's going to help me reach that goal. So the good thing about continuous goals is their flexibility. What you need to do is get started and then just keep learning. As you learn more, you can adapt. You can learn more about social media and change how you're approaching reaching people there. You can learn more about doing vendor events and change. So it's continuously improving rather than reaching some end goal. Because if we're always growing and we're always improving, we're going to continuously be working toward goals in the future. It's not going to come to an end. And then instead of measurable, it's trackable. So PACT, PACT. Stats can be overrated. And we've talked a lot about that on Monday meetups too. Sometimes just always talking about how many enrollments and all the new ranks. That's awesome. But what about the people who were stagnant for a while and they've come back and they've re-hit their highest rank? We want to celebrate that too, but that doesn't show up in back office, right? So yes, we appreciate back office and the stats we can see there, but that can be overrated and it doesn't always apply to a lot of different types of goals to just have all these stats. So I'm a big fan of the yes or no approach to goal tracking, kind of similar to, it's called the GitHub tracker. So have you done the thing or not? Have you called 3 potential customers today? Or have you followed up with the people that you sampled last week? Have you published your weekly social media post that you decided you were going to publish when you broke down your goal into smaller action steps? Yes or no? This just makes it easy to track. And that simplicity is helpful to me because I did the kind of SMART goals for years, and it does for me personally, just because of my personality, it kind of gets me into this rut of writing out all the things, and I could journal and write paragraphs about it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm moving forward and doing the things. So let me grab this link for you really quick. Any thoughts on that while I'm looking up this link, just on what's helped you to actually reach goals, breaking it down in certain ways, or just launching out and doing the thing, or maybe doing research and preparing? Like, what is your personality and style that helps you to actually reach some of your goals that you've set in the past, whether with your doTERRA business, another venture, maybe a health goal, weight loss, anything. I'm not just talking about as a builder. I just love to hear what has been effective for you.
That word consistent keeps coming up. Consistent. Persevere and be consistent. And creativity has actually popped up a lot during some of the Zooms that I've attended. Customize, basically, make it your own. Yeah.
Mhm. Yep, customizing and consistency, those are great C words that you can start to think of going into next year. What are ways that you can do that? What are ways that you can customize? And how can you be more consistent?
And
Because that's one of
create.
the problems, right? Is not being consistent. Yes, what was that? Oh, I thought someone else was saying.
No, I said and creative. The other
Oh, and
C word.
creative. Yeah. All the C words. I love it. All right, so let me see if I share this link with you. Let
Kim,
me,
were you going to say something? You're on mute, so I didn't. Kim Davis, I thought that you were saying something.
oh, yes, by all means, if you are.
Yeah, you're muted. So if you were saying something, we can't hear you. Yeah.
Thank you. And if you need help unmuting, let me know. Let me check. I'm going to have somebody try this link real quick and make sure it's that you can open it. So it's got a folder and it's got some worksheets and also that poem that some of you enjoyed, that I enjoyed. I just want to make sure that it's got the right settings. Yeah. So anyone with the link there, I just changed it. Anyone with the link should be able to open that. Okay, so let me go back into that because I just wanted to take a little detour from it and share with you about the PACT goal. And you can Google that. That's a really common thing too, if that's better for you. So as we're continuing on going through this bundle, setting goals in different categories of your life, your health and wellness, your finances, your business, maybe your other ventures, whether you have another job or career or you volunteer. For me, homeschooling is always one of them. So it just depends on what other things you're pursuing. But having a goal and then action steps that goes with it and breaking that down. And so if you're just applying it to your business, that's great. You may not want to write this all out for everything in your life. But the important thing is not just setting the goals, but actually reflecting on them. Did you reach it? Yes or no? It's okay if not, because you break that down and evaluate. And often we learn the most through not reaching some of our goals. And sometimes if we're reaching all our goals, it's because we actually set goals that were too easy. We weren't challenging ourselves. And so did you reach your goal? What was the result? Whether you did or didn't reach it, there's going to be some kind of result. You're going to move forward in some way. So, what went well with that, and how can you plan going forward? So, each page has that. There's also a vision board, and it's small, but that's good. It just kind of gives you a box for each month. So, you can go, what do I want my main focus to be for this month? And then there's the different categories. So, health, wealth, career, family, lifestyle, and then personal. That's what it breaks down. You may have more categories for yourself. So having goals, not just for the year, but broken down into the quarter and then into the month, are really, really helpful if you can remember. So if you want to print this out, maybe put it in a folder or binder um, that you can continue to look at every month and every quarter, that's where it's going to be the most effective to set goals. Because if we just set those goals on January 1st, those resolutions, and then we close that up and it gets shoved on the bottom of a pile somewhere, and we don't look at it again until July, and then we just laugh, right? I mean, I'm saying this because I've done it. Oh, that's really funny. I set this goal in January. It's July. I forgot all about it. So much for that. So we don't want that to be how we look at setting goals for our business. Um, and then there's kind of a fun page that's just a bucket list. My life's top 10 things I want to do, see, visit, or experience. So that's not related to your business, but your business could help you get there, right? And so what's it actually going to take to reach some of those bucket list things that you'd love to see, do, or experience? It's probably going to be having a financial goal, saving the money to make that happen. And your doTERRA business could be a vehicle towards so many things. How am I going to give? How am I going to help others? What ways can I make an impact? How's my doTERRA business going to help me do that? And then there's some blank pages where you can set some other types of goals, or a monthly planner if you want to use that. That's great. Tanya always publishes kind of a calendar and planner for us that are more specific to doTERRA, so you can use those. There's a notes page. And then there's a simpler goal planner page. And so one of the methods that has worked better for me, like I said, the SMART method is great if you just love to journal, but it doesn't necessarily always result in action. So there's a goal planner sheet in there that just has your big goal. And this is called the 1-3-5 method, although this sheet doesn't actually have 5 spaces. But you have one big goal, you break it into 3 smaller goals, and then you have an action plan under each of those 3 smaller goals. So let's say your goal is to start enrolling at least 5 people a month. Let's just say you have a goal for 5 a month. So what do you think? I want some, oh, sorry. Yes, I can post that link again. So what do you think? Let's hear from all of you. What are some ways, if your big goal is enrolling 5 people in a month, what are some smaller goals that you personally would put into place to help you to reach that? Let's come up with 3, just as an example for how you would fill out this simple goal planner worksheet. What are some 3 things that you could do?
Schedule classes 101.
Okay. Schedule classes or one-on-ones. All right. And what else?
Contact people daily.
How many?
1 or 2. It depends
Okay.
on, that's what just came to my head.
Okay. Contact 1 or 2 people a day. Great. And any other ideas?
Go through my list.
Follow up with a follow
Yeah.
up one.
Okay. Okay, good. So you have 3 smaller goals: scheduling classes and one-on-ones, contacting 1 or 2 people a day, and then following up with anybody that you've contacted in the past. So those are great. So then you break those down into specific action steps. So scheduling classes and one-on-ones, well, to do that, you have to have people to invite. Same with contacting 1 or 2 people a day. So both of those, you're going to have to think about, what are some action steps? How am I going to find these people that I'm going to contact, right? Or how am I going to find these people that I'm going to invite? So what are some ways that you either meet people or find people? Where are you going to find these people to
I
invite?
said go through my list. I have a list, my gosh, over 100 people. And that's
Okay.
how it started. I'm still going through that list, but I've added to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, so and
families
then
included.
breaking it down into smaller goals, which really that could fit under following up, contacting 1 or 2 people a day, even just 1 person a day. And even if it's 3 or 4 or 5 days a week, it may not be 7 days a week. That would move the needle so far for all
Mm,
of us in our businesses if we were consistent with that.
yeah.
The hard thing is that sometimes you'll go to these workshops where they'll say you need to contact 10 new people a day, and we just shut down, right? Who's
Yeah,
going to
that's true.
find 10 new people a day to contact, or even have the time to follow up with 10 people you already know? And so if you start with things that you actually feel like I could act on that, maybe for you it's only 2 or 3 people a week, not 1 or 2 a day. But that's more than what you did this year, or it's more than what you've been
Mhm.
consistently doing from week to week. Maybe you've had bursts where you did contact 20 people in a week because you had a class coming up, but then you didn't do anything for the next few weeks because that felt like a lot of work, you know? So you want
Right?
to
Because it's
have,
not a habit. It's
it's
not
not
a
a
habit
habit.
yet.
It's a
And when you
one-time
try to
event.
force yourself, yeah, when you force yourself to go 120%, you wind up just going, oh, I didn't do, okay, okay, I might as well just, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. And then all of a sudden, like you said earlier, you just keep going, 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 going. And that's what I found that I do. I'm very plain. I like having everything. I have my really fancy Smythson notebook and I write things out and I have my but do you know what's helping me is just writing down a list of what I need to get done and then having these times where we take and say, "Oh, I need to enroll somebody. What does that mean?" And that means doing this activity to like say, "Well, maybe you need some people to contact."
Yeah.
That pulling it down to that basis. The other thing that I really about this, the goal planner on the more complicated
Mhm.
one, is this is something that I teach my students in my business communication class. It's advanced business communication, and in their team project, in the middle of it, I have them play the game Stop, Start, Continue. It's in the middle of the other one, and this is something that I need to do more with my DoTerra business because sometimes you get into a rut and the rut lasts longer because you didn't take and say, this isn't working. What can I do? I need to
Mhm.
throw this away, try something new and keep these things that are working.
Yes.
I feedback from students were like, wow, this was really good because they stopped doing the thing that was making their group projects so frustrating because we all love group projects in
Yeah.
school. Anyway, so yeah, just wanted to say that
Okay,
just
good. Yeah,
and
I'll
now
go.
I just write a list like
Yeah, that's
with a
great.
check mark now and instead of trying to make this long beautiful layout like you see on
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah, and that's even for me. Like some of these pages I really like and some are not going to work for me. So you can go through these and see now that I'm able to share, just change a setting. But yeah, I like the monthly reflections. That's doable for me. I like to go back, once a month, once a quarter, reflect what went well, what can I improve. The SMART goals, I can fill this out, but it doesn't mean I'm going to break it down into the steps that I need. And I like filling things out. So that for me is fun, but that doesn't mean I'll actually act on it. So these other pages where my goals are on a page, why is it important? You really do need to know why. How does it tie into your passions, your deeper desires, your longer term outcome, and then those action steps. So this is a good page. It's similar to the other one pager, but it also adds that really important question, why? And and then you have several different goals, break them down into action steps. Maybe you really don't know enough people, and it's not that there aren't enough people, right? There's plenty of people everywhere. So how are you going to get to meet them? Maybe you need to join a networking group. Maybe you need to join a club. Maybe there's something you already really enjoy doing or somewhere you already enjoy going, but you haven't been intentional about meeting people, and making yourself friendly in those places, but also, if you have the time, it just depends on your own schedule. It might be places you already go, and you just have to get more intentional about meeting.
Yeah.
If you have more time, it could be joining a networking group or it could be volunteering. That has been a great way for me to meet people. The other volunteers and I already have something in common, something to talk about, some rapport, that we have because we believe in the same cause and we're working alongside each other. So that's been a great way to meet people outside of my normal circles because I do find in my homeschool circle, most people already use oils. There's a lot of crunchy moms in those homeschool circles. So I have to get outside of those circles that might feel like, oh, it's saturated. It's not my area that's saturated. It's just the places I always go might be somewhat saturated. But there's always new people moving to our area, so it's not true either. I don't want to ignore or discount those places, but I have had to get outside of that in order to get beyond my warm market, which we all have to do. And so your goal, this is just focusing on one goal instead of so many. Having one goal, one why, and then setting yourself up for success by thinking through this goal is going to allow me to what? Well, who are the support and accountability people I can count on toward this? Because if you don't share it with anybody, if you're not transparent and accountable with someone about this,
Yeah.
then it's easy to not do it. I will celebrate
Right.
achieving this by. So this was fun when I first started my business. I would tell my kids, I know that you're kind of sad that I have to leave again or whatever to go teach a class, and this is not always easy, but we're going to celebrate when I achieve this goal. we're going to do this as a family, or we're going to go here. And they would get excited and ask, how close are you to that rank, mommy? Because we're ready to go to that place we talked about. And they would cheer me on. Instead of it being something that they resented, it became
Right.
who's on my page. So
Yeah.
then there's the action steps, goal review. Again, did I reach it? What went well? What could I improve? And then here's the vision board for the year. And then here's the page that breaks it down into those different categories. The quarterly, I would recommend monthly and quarterly reviews. And then just having goals for the year kind of spelled out, but it can be fluid. It's going to change throughout the year. There's the bucket list one. Sorry, I couldn't show you all that later or earlier, I mean. And then I'm going to go over back to the other one page just so I can have a visual on here too. And for anybody who's watching the recording, you can always get the oops, I showed the wrong one. You can always get the link from one of us. So we'll make sure that that's available to you. Okay, where is it? There it is. All
So
right.
that's the thing that I appreciate about the 8 weeks to elite. Like I said, I've passed elite, but I have learned so much just by having input from other WAs and by being held accountable. Because they made it very simple. 3 things. Just put out 3 goals at the beginning of the day, and at the end of the day, say whether or not you completed them. And if you didn't do those, maybe you did something else. So you can substitute.
Mhm.
That has made things so much better for me.
Yes. And the 8 weeks to elite, if you haven't done that before, I highly recommend it. And that's one of the main reasons because it does give you that built-in accountability to say the 3 things you're going to do, how you're going to get that done. And then you've got people, there's people checking on you and
Yeah,
you've got people relying on you because you're part of a group. And it's really good to,
it's fun. It's
and
for
it is
me.
fun. It makes it kind of a game. But also having your accountability partner, whether that's upline, downline, sideline, crossline, whatever it is, it's not always going to be the person that enrolled you. And we've all kind of had to accept
Right.
that because some of us have enrollers who have kind of checked out or stepped down or they introduced us, but we've, maybe passed them up in our building desires and activities. And so they're not really the person that's going to be able to coach us. That's okay. Find somebody about the same rank who has a similar goal and keep each other accountable. Thank you for being here, Reed. And yeah, so that's something else that is important is the transparency and then the accountability. And it's not to ever shame you for not achieving something. It's okay, you didn't get those 3 things done. Why? Let's break it down. Sometimes it's a mindset or a belief issue. Sometimes you just had life happen and had a curveball thrown at you and somebody, fell and broke their arm or something at your house and you had to stop and take care of that. Things happen, whether it's with family or you yourself got, sick or whatever it is. And so you have to be flexible, but then don't just give up because, well, I didn't do those 3 things or I didn't reach that goal.
Right.
You dust yourself off and you say, okay, it didn't happen last week or last month, but I'm starting fresh this week or this month, and these are the things. And so just having that consistent person that can be your accountability partner is important too. So I hope this was helpful and that these
Yeah.
sheets are helpful too for you planning and going into the next year. I would love to hear more about what your goals actually are. You can share in our Facebook groups. We're going to have some questions along those lines. So be thinking about that more toward the end of the year. We'll be asking, hey, share a goal. Just because, again, putting it out there somewhere that others can see it can be really helpful for motivation, but also because we want to celebrate the things that went well. So I personally, I'm going to have that in my group. I know that the other groups will do something similar. What are some things that went well? Let's celebrate. So think of 3 things that went really well this year that you want to continue doing more of. And then think of some things you want to improve going into next year and break that down into those action steps so that you have a plan going into the new year well before the new year's even here. Of course, we want to finish this month strong. There's lots of good stuff going on for finishing up this year strong too. So any other thoughts? We are at the top of the hour again already. Always goes by fast. Any other
Where did you
thoughts?
say I could find that poem?
Oh, it's
Where
in
did you say?
that folder.
Oh,
Did
it
you-
is. Okay, thanks.
yeah, I popped it in that folder just so you
Okay,
can find
thank you.
But you can, when you see the guy's name, you can follow him on Facebook too. He shares some great stuff if you like his style
Okay,
of stuff.
thanks.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Anyone else want to share something that went well or something you're hoping to achieve in the new year before we close out?
I just want to say thank you for your showing up and bringing all of this information to us. And I know it takes time, it takes effort and consistency. So thank you.
Oh, yes. And yes, also Stephanie and Tanya, such great
Yeah.
leaders. You'll hear from Stephanie next week. I don't know what her topic is yet, but it's always great stuff. And I think Tanya might be adding, she's at the summit right now, learning so many great things. She might add something toward the end of the year. She might save it for January. Right now, we only have this week and next week scheduled for December because of the holidays. But Tanya was saying she might decide to surprise us and throw one in on December 30th and just record it for those who can't join. So if that Monday happens to work for you, you can still save that date. But if not, we will always have those recordings available. So yeah, use these tools, share with each other, share with us, and you are welcome. Also, if you ever do have something going well in your business, we love for you to come on and share, even if it's just 2 minutes, 5 minutes. Maybe it's not sharing for the entire Monday meetup. Maybe it's not something you could turn into a whole teaching, but we love to highlight and spotlight those things. So if you just pop on and tell us, that's great. But if you want to message one of us and say, hey, I've been implementing this, VMG sampling, and I would love to just spell out, exactly what I'm doing because people have been asking, and I could pop on Monday Meetup and share for 5 minutes so that everybody kind of knows what's working well for me. We love, love, love that. So please consider making that, even a more of a formal thing. Of course, you're always welcome to pop on and do that. But if we know things are going well, don't be surprised if you get tapped on the shoulder, say, hey, could you come share on Monday Meetup? Because we all want to learn from you. So thanks to those who have shared throughout the year what's going well for you too, and how you're implementing some amazing things that are moving your businesses forward. So it's been great. It's been a great year, and I'm excited. There's some great changes coming. I don't know much about them yet, but I know that doTERRA is working hard to bring us great products and also some ways to earn different bonuses and things to change up the compensation plan a bit. We're going to learn more about that at leadership, those who are going. So make that a goal if you haven't. And yeah, make it a goal to be like Reed and show up on every Monday meetup. That'd be awesome too. So thanks for being here. Anyone else have anything to share before we go?
I'll share.
Okay. Hey, Pam.
Hear me? So I'm like Reed, like showing up has been important for me for the
Mhm.
Monday meetup with the other Monday calls. But also I would like to rank to silver at least, but gold for sure this coming year. So I want to do the
Awesome.
Silver Club.
That's great.
That is amazing. Well, thank you for putting that out there. Silver Club is definitely going to give you that roadmap that you need to work toward that. So that's a great decision. And that would be awesome for anyone on this call who's got those goals to move forward in those real specific ways, measurable ways where you are really seeing your income grow. So that's great. Thank you for sharing, Pam.
And I'm looking to enroll 5 people so I can make it to leadership.
Okay, good. I hope to see you there. It's going to be a great leadership. There's some new exciting stuff coming, and I think it looks like a neat place there in San Antonio. That's going to be fun. I'm going to bring my whole family. That's the plan, because it happens to fall on my son's birthday, and I've made it a goal never to miss a birthday. And so far, I've never had to make that choice with any doTERRA events. But we talked about it and decided let's all just go. It looks like a really fun, family-friendly place. And then I can still be at leadership and still be with my son to celebrate his birthday too. So that will be an amazing place to be. March, I think it's 3rd through 5th. So mark your calendars for that. But if I don't talk to some of you specifically, have a wonderful holiday season and Happy New Year. We'll be back next week, though. I plan to be here. Stephanie will be the one teaching, so you won't want to miss it. Have a great week, and we'll talk
Yeah.
soon.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.